Hey friends, welcome to Abundant Life 360 podcast. We're so excited you're joining us today. We're here to help you get healthy and stay healthy mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. We will walk with you as you discover what works best to live a balanced life. Now is your time to find freedom on your wellness journey. So let's get started and check out today's episode. We are here with Dr. Nancy Meyer, and she is really going to bring the message today about defying fear. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to her and let her take it away.
So I want to ask you guys, what is one of your earliest memories of being afraid? You think of that? What is one of the earliest memories of being afraid? I have had several in my lifetime, and I am terrified of heights, yet my first date with my husband was skydiving. The long drive to the airport was nerve-wracking, as all I could think of was things that could, go wrong, like dying. We were doing a tandem jump where you're hooked to an experienced instructor that's behind you, and they have the parachute, so you're hooked to them. And I told my husband I wanted to be hooked to the biggest guy possible. We put on our, skydiving gear, which was, the suit, the glasses, the harness, and then we approached the plane. Let's see. Our plane didn't look as good as this, but that's what it looked like. And I noticed the first thing as I approached it, it did not have a door. Thought that's not good. And then it was gutted on the inside. There was only rows of benches inside. And I thought, this is not a good sign. And we got in the plane. We took seats in front of our instructor. And as soon as the plane took off, the instructor hooked themselves to our harness. He hooked the front of his harness to the back of my harness. And then while we were ascending, one of the instructors, they asked me what I thought. So I looked out the window and my heart's pounding. And I just said, we are really high. And then he said, laughing, and said, we're only about halfway up. My eyes got big. My stomach dropped to my throat. I said, I couldn't help but think, man, who in their right mind jumps out of a good plane? And the instructors, they all heard me, which I did not know they did. And they said, it isn't really that good of a plane. Well, they all thought that was hilarious. But I agreed with them, although I did not share their enthusiasm. As we reached our safe jump height, which was like 12,000 feet, they tell us to stand. I'm like so nervous. And then I look over at my husband, and he's short, stocky frame. He looks like Yoda coming out of his instructor, which he had like the biggest guy possible. And my instructor and I, we waddle to the door in unison, my butterflies in my stomach, trying to catch my breath, trying to do my breathing. And I say a Bible verse. I say, be strong, be courageous. And I thought about grabbing the door and holding on the door frame and not letting go. Then I remember them saying, if you don't jump freely and fully out the door, you won't clear the plane. And then they ask, are you ready? And everything about me wanted to scream, no, I am not ready. No way. But then they said, okay, Ray, here we go. And they count down 3, 2, 1, and we jumped. I screamed. Well, I started to scream, but then I couldn't because all the force of the wind was just blowing on my face as we were going 127 miles per hour. The noise was so loud, it was deafening. I prayed to God, please let my parachute open. Well, then it opened, and you hear this sound as the parachute opened. As you figured it worked, because I'm talking to you now. But then after the parachute opened, you heard this fluttering sound. In an instant, the complete chaos, it transformed in something. It was completely calm. And it was actually one of the most peaceful, calming experiences I've ever had as we slowly soared and drifted to the ground. You may never have gone skydiving like me, but what fears have you had that have taken your breath away? When was a time you felt you couldn't move forward because you were caught like in fear or anxiety or panic attack or worry? Anybody worries? Let's discuss what I learned from skydiving and how it relates to defying fear and replacing fear with faith in our lives. So skydiving and taking that first step out of the plane was way out of my comfort zone. It was one of the scariest things I've ever done. In that moment, I had to place my trust in several things. I had to trust the instructor would keep me safe, trust we would stay connected through the harness, trust he was experienced and knew exactly what he was doing, trust the parachute would deploy and he had all the equipment we needed, trust the instructor that he knew the best timing, and trust the instructor even though I couldn't see him. Isn't this what we need to do in our relationship with God? Trust him. Have faith in his abilities and rely on his promises. Trust that he will supply us with all we need. Trust that he knows the best timing as well. Just as I had to trust my instructor completely, even though I couldn't see him, we must trust that God will take care of us and never abandon us. Just like Deuteronomy 31:6 assures us, be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or terrified because of them. For the Lord your God goes with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. We may not be able to see God or fully understand the outcome of a situation or even conceive the end of a situation, but faith is about believing even when we can't see or understand. What are you not letting go of and giving to God? This reminds me when I was fighting for custody of my kids while I was going through my divorce. Blessed to be happily remarried now, and yes, skydiving was my first date. But if there was one thing I would not do, and that was give up my kids. And after multiple false accusations in court, I temporarily lost custody of one of my children. Although at the time I didn't know it would be temporary. I was one of those 17% of moms that lost custody of their children. It about killed me. Is losing your kids one of your biggest fears? Or something happening to your kids? It was mine. When it happened, I had to turn it over to God. It was almost more than I could bear. I kept repeating to myself, Philippians 4:6, do not worry, pray. Summed it up. Do not worry, pray. I had no control, but I could pray. Anybody ever feel like that in a situation? Anyone that likes to be in control here? I know I do. But I had to let go and let God. I had to give control of my kids to him because otherwise I was going to go nuts. I couldn't protect them, but I knew he could. What are you holding on to that you need to let go and turn over to God? Let him handle. Are you holding on to fear instead of turning your fear over to God? Let him have the control. What are you not letting go of and giving to God? So I want you to take a moment to reflect on that one fear that's holding you back. If you guys could grab a piece of paper, grab anything, notebook or anything, I'll give you a second. But I want you to take a moment and reflect on that one fear that's holding you back. What are you holding on to that you need to turn over to God and let him handle? So some lists from a survey that I did of some fears. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of public speaking. Yeah, that's not a good one. Fear of not being in control, fear of body image or what others think, fear of finances or debt, FOMO, fear of missing out, fear of not being enough, fear of not being worthy of love, fear of being alone, fear from a trauma, or fear of not being perfect? Or is it simply worrying about everything? So on a piece of paper, I'd like you to write, what are you afraid of? If you need to, grab your phone, whatever, put in there what you're afraid of. Write it down. Now I want you to remember this. Write that down. Helen, you give me the thumbs up when you're done. Okay, good. So remember this, faith without action is incomplete. Faith without action is incomplete. So let's discuss ways that we can overcome our fear and anxiety, ways that can help you like it helped me. So write another side of you, flip your paper over and write the word action at the top. And then below that, let's write a list of things to help us overcome fear with faith. So here we go. So I want you to think of 3 parts, which I know you guys do this too with the emotional part: mental, spiritual, and physical. So write down breathing, put down journal, create, connect with God, affirmation, worship, movement, nutrition, rest, sleep. So I want you to write those down. You can take a picture with your phone too. So mental, spiritual, and physical. Breathing, journal, create, connect with God, affirmation, worship, movement, nutrition, sleep, and rest. So mentally, let's talk about each one of these things. Breathing. So put breathing first, because if you don't breathe, you pass out, then you can't accomplish anything, right? But just like me, when I was jumping out of the plane, I had to try to control my breathing. So one thing is you want to make sure your posture is good. It's chiropractor, I got to throw that in there. And then breathing, you want to breathe from your belly. So you put one hand on your chest and one on your belly. When you breathe in, your belly should go out. So breathe in, belly out. And as you breathe out, exhale, belly goes in. Now, something I want you to remember is when they do that test, the spirometer, you're actually breathing out is what it's testing. What we do is we breathe little breaths like that. If you think about it, you got waste in your lungs and you're not letting that junk get out. So breathe in again, the hand on your belly, let your belly out, hold it there, and then breathe out and really push, push, push. And you can feel your core engage actually as you breathe out. So there's different breathing exercises you can do. You can breathe in and then breathe in a little bit more and let it all out. That will actually decrease your heart rate. So when you're feeling in a panic mode or stress, something's gotten you that you don't want to do or you're trying to deal with, breathing like that helps. Another thing is writing in a journal. It's so important to get those thoughts out of your head and onto paper. So as a chiropractor, as a doctor of chiropractic, the main issue that I treated in my office was stress. It just showed up as headaches, neck pain, low back pain. So journaling is a way to handle that. I used to tell people if you don't handle your stress some way, we'll talk more about this, but like writing it down in a journal, getting that out of your mind, it'll come out somehow. It'll show either as, I had 6 ulcers at one time, so it can show up as that, or like I said, the headaches. So journaling too, you release those negative thoughts, you get them out. I don't know if anybody like you, but a lot of women I find, especially women and men, but we rehash things. But if you write it out and put it in a journal, then you can let it go because you can always refer back to all those details if you need to. But I find most people don't. But also you can think of it as a prayer to God, that you're writing it as a form of prayer to God and giving it to Him. And then another thing is writing gratitude, because even though we're going through hard times, there's always something you can be thankful for. Another thing is create. So creativity. That is healing. It's therapeutic. So engage in stuff like anything you're good at. So, or you enjoy, like writing, painting, or music, like art stuff, listening to music, all that different stuff. So if you have the creativity part and then you have the trauma part, when you create, you're actually taking over that part. So it's the positive part of the brain where the trauma is. So you're actually helping to heal yourself from different things that you've been through. It's shifting the brain from fear to peace. And like I said, creativity, it counters the trauma. It's like the positive, the negative side of trauma in the brain. Next is spiritual. So connecting with God. And this is huge, but you have to open your mind up to it first. That's why I covered the mental part first. But spirituality, connecting with God. So prayer, just talk to God. He wants to hear the good, bad, and ugly. He doesn't just want, to hear, oh, give me this. He wants you to be like, hey, this day stinks. I need help with this. He wants to hear that. You release that, give it to him, have that open communication. Another thing is to recite and repeat Bible verses. For me, that's what I did. I would write around, don't worry, pray, and I would put it different places so that I could see them. And also you can do positive quotes and stuff too, if you like, something that motivates you. And later I'll give you a free list of Defying Fear Bible verses, my top ones that I like. Another thing is affirmations. Affirm your value. Words of affirmation. Positive self-talk reflects your self-worth. So let me ask you this. Do you talk negatively about yourself? Would you talk to others the way you talk to yourself? The answer is usually no, because you say stuff that's not positive about yourself. And I'm going to share with you at the end a gift so you can access your values, the self-worth quiz. But like, for example, don't say I'm fat or I'm stupid or I'm clumsy or I'm ugly or I can't. Be the engine that could. Remember that your mind can't distinguish between what is real and what is imagined. So when you say stuff, your mind will believe it. So instead, say stuff like, I'm enough. I am loved. I am valued and cherished. I may not be where I want to be, but God is working on me. Nothing is worship. And this is not just going to church on Sundays, but look for ways to praise God. Did you notice, like for me, I noticed the mountains or the sunrise or sunset or just the clouds in the sky. Listen to music, gather with your friends, Christian friends or people that support you. Singing, dancing, walking or running. You can all do that while praising the Lord. So physical examples, move. Your body was made to move. God made your body to move. Motion is lotion. When you move your joints, that's healing. As a chiropractor, I know this. I adjust you to move your joints for healing. So when you're moving, you're actually healing your joints. And this is, if you get anything else but this, exercise isn't about weight loss. It's about releasing stress and caring for the temple that God gave you. It's honoring Him. So physical activity, like exercise, any kind of exercise, walk, move, any movement, running, swimming, biking, pickleball, I don't care what it is, stretching, whatever you enjoy, just do it. And remember, Jesus, we're supposed to resemble what He did, right? He walked everywhere. In His ministry, He walked over 3,000 miles. So just think about that. And that was time that He used for, communicating and sharing and just getting focused. When you walk, it helps you to focus and forget about all the trauma that's going on. Exercise to clear the cobwebs, not for weight loss. So mental clarity through movement is amazing. So studies show that 20 to 30 minutes of daily movement can significantly reduce anxiety and depression. So exercise helps your mentalness, helps that mental clarity. The side bonus is weight loss. So if you think I'm doing it for the mental clarity, then the other, that'll come. In nutrition, which you guys, I know, talk about that, but big thing I find is no processed foods, includes, stopping the seed oils, decrease sugar, and increase protein intake as far as good animal-based foods. Fuel your body. How else do you do that? Through rest. Rest is so important. Be still and know that He is God. I know for me, that is so hard just to stop. But I know sleep at night, that's when you need to go to bed, same time, within 45 minutes. Get up and go to bed at the same time, within 45-minute time frame. And like I said, this is hard for me, but it's exactly what I needed to do to stop and be still and just be present with God. One of the biggest lessons I learned from triathlon training, which is swim, bike, and run, was rest. You have rest days. Can you believe that? You actually rest. Your body needs to heal itself. It needs to recover from the training, and usually it's 1 day a week. Physically and mentally, we need a day off. Even God rested on the seventh day. Remember that? Think of it. Rest isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. We need to learn to take a rest. So for me, I know one thing I did is taking 5 minutes, just quiet time, not doing anything, not praying, just sitting there with God. This was huge. First time I did this, I was like, I ain't gonna like this. I'm not gonna, there's no way. But I set that down and I was like, okay. And I sat there. And then the thing I noticed is I needed more time. So peaceful. And it's funny because we don't take time, but by taking that time, it actually gives us more time later. Here, I want you to see this. So total wellness is a component of all those different things. You don't think about it, but mentally, physically, and spiritually. So you think, okay, if I'm just worshiping the Lord all the time, that's great, but then you're going to burn out and you're not going to be able to keep going. And you can't do as much as what you need to do for the Lord if you're not taking care of yourself. So that's why you got to physically and mentally take care of yourself. Because in the middle there, that's the balance, the rhythm, the peace. And guess what? That's God. That's where God is, because he is the balance. He is all those together in showing us what we need to do. So make sure you're choosing. That's why I listed those topics like that. So you're doing a little bit from each one. So what are you afraid of? So you have that index card, right? Or index card, so your paper that you have on. And I want you at the top to write, you wrote down your fear, right? What you're afraid of. At the top, I want you to write faith. And then I want you to mark out that fear. Because by doing those action steps that we just talked about, you're putting faith over fear, just one step at a time. So I signed up for half Ironman, my first at age 53, right? Go big or go home. I had to learn to swim, which is crazy, right, at 53. But a half Ironman consists of a 1.2-mile swim, 56-mile bike ride, and 13.1-mile run, half a marathon at the end. You know what my favorite part of finishing this half Ironman race was? It was not surviving the swim without having a panic attack, which is huge for me, okay? It wasn't the crowd cheering me on and my family and friends there to support me. It wasn't hearing my name announced as I crossed the finish line. Congratulations, Nancy Meyer, you're Ironman. It wasn't setting a new personal record for this race. My favorite part after finishing the half Ironman was when it hadn't been 5 minutes since I'd crossed the finish line. And my grandson came up to me and he said, Mama, will you play tag with me? I was like, wait a minute here. Wait a minute. I said, I might need a minute. But then I thought, shouldn't we be like him and see the opportunity that God gives us and don't limit God? He didn't care that I just finished a half Ironman. He didn't care. He just knew that Mama was done with that, Grandma, and he wanted to play tag with me. God has big plans for you and for me still. Don't let your fear or anxiety limit you. And especially don't limit God's plans for you. Don't let fear in the moment limit your view of what you can do in that moment. Be like my grandson and take advantage of any opportunity that you can see. Don't listen to that negative inner voice saying you aren't worthy, you aren't valued, you aren't enough. Let go of the fear of losing control that is actually controlling you. I'm going to say that again. Let go of the fear of losing control that is actually controlling you. Let go like I did and jump freely out of the plane. Jump freely into God's arms, in his presence, and live by faith. Let go, let God, like the song says. Do you have faith that God is there and will always be there, even when you can't see him? Like the instructor, even though I couldn't see him, he was there. After all, isn't faith believing when we can't see him or when we don't know the outcome of a situation? Otherwise, it isn't faith, right? You're doing this by being here and taking this course, being in the 360, being in the first place for health. We all have unique gifts and opportunities given to us by God. Will you choose to defy fear and step out of your comfort zone and get out of your own way and step into faith and follow God's calling for you? Remember, faith without action is incomplete. So take practical steps toward your goals and dreams, and don't let anxiety or fear paralyze you. Right now, I challenge each one of you to pick one thing from the list to start this week. Circle the one that you're going to start with. Okay, I know what you're thinking. Don't choose the one you're already doing. Okay, you see what you're thinking. Thinking, I'm going to do this one because I'm already doing it. Just, you're ahead of the game. So choose that one thing, and then for this week, and then after you get that in motion, look at this again, and then choose another that you might add to it the next week. But just one step at a time. Maybe it takes a couple weeks. That's okay. But just one step at a time. That's the key. It's not the big steps. One step at a time. So remember, you too can move from fear to faith, just as I share in my book, Defying Fear. This journey is about overcoming fear through faith, by leaning into your faith in God. By taking this first step, choosing one thing to focus on this week, you're already replacing fear with faith. And I'm proud of you. I love this quote from Zig Ziglar. Fear, F-E-A-R, has two meanings. Forget everything and run, or face everything and rise. The choice is yours. So I would love to connect with you. If you text Nancy, Nancy, to 55444, you can find out more about me and download any of the free resources I talked about, including the Defy Fear Bible Verses Self-Worth Quiz, and actually have a playlist too that you can listen to my favorite songs. And then if you download one of my free resources, I will send you a code for $50 off one of my Get Out of My Own Way courses, reset course. And also, anyway, if you do that, and I will offer too, if anyone that downloads, I will actually offer a free one-on-one coaching session. And we can talk about that for anyone in the course. So that's here taking this. But anyway, I would love to connect with you. If you have any questions, I'll open up to that.
I It's so interesting. I'm sure we all have different fears. So I love that I got to cross through it. I just want to say that was my favorite part of the webinar so far, is that I got to cross through the fear. Oh, any thoughts on how to actually determine what a specific fear is?
Well, let me see. Any thoughts? Well, I actually think that most people think it's worry and doubt and all that stuff, but I think it's all based on fear. I think there's something that happened. There's either somebody or some, in your past that has told you, hey, you can't do this, or something that happened that's triggering something, causing you to not move forward. So it's, I mean, it can be, you think it's a doubt, but it's actually, I think most things are rooted in fear.
Nancy, can I also say, in our healing prayer sessions that I lead, one of the things is we just close our eyes and say, Father God, is there something I'm afraid of? And let the Lord let you know. Like sometimes we don't realize something is stopping us. Like, what am I afraid of? So I'm just saying it's another way too, is to go to the Lord in prayer and see if there's something you're afraid of.
Yes, definitely. And I think, and two, and I'm telling you, this week, pray about it, and then someone may speak to you too and show you like, hey, there's something, hey, why are you feeling that way? But I know for me, if I'm in a situation and I'm like, okay, why do I feel this funny like this? And it may be like a trigger response from some trauma that you've been through. So he said, explain, okay, creativity and trauma, if you think they're both in the prefrontal cortex. And if you've had some kind of trauma, if you've ever like you're writing, or if someone's drawing or listen to music, they feel peace, like you feel peace afterwards. It's because you're taking place of where that trauma was to the new place. And it's like it's feeling good where the bad was. Instead of letting that trauma resonate and stay in there, you're actually, which is a flight state where you're like this, right? It's putting that calmness and peace in there. It's really cool. So it can be creating. So it can even be like you're making slides for your presentation. I mean, just anything like that you're doing. It can be organized. It could be cooking, baking. So it's like a creating thing.
Well, I'm looking over all of my notes, and I took a lot of notes, Nancy. That was such good material. And I loved what you said about exercise isn't about weight loss. Can you just expand on that just a little bit more? Because I think that's such an important point.
So if you can so for myself, I thought I was huge. I thought I was huge and stuff. And then I was pregnant with my daughter, and people are like, oh, you're not big. I'm like, I'm not big. What? Because it's just what I was taught myself and my vision of myself. But when you work out, you can get on the scale and you can weigh, and you're like, well, you weigh the same, right? Or you could weigh more if you hydrated well, right? But after you work out, you can like go, man, do I feel less stress? And I know for me, instantly the stress goes. And I'm also nicer, my family says, after I work out. Just a side note for them. Good for your family too. But that stress will just leave, and it's clearing the cobwebs. So I would equate it to this. So when I coached a lot, and I coached like 30 years, kids and stuff, youth sports. I never would make my kids run. They would run, but I wouldn't do it as a punishment, because then they equate punishment with exercise, and you're causing permanent damage. I mean, bad, so that they're equating exercise and things with punishment. So what I would do is say, hey, run around the field a couple of times to warm up. Well, they do this, talking. So it was fun. So they equated it with fun. Or I'd play games where we're like, tag or different stuff like that. So they're running around harder than they ever would if they were running. And they equated it fun exercise. So what we've done, like food poisoning, when you eat something like a rotten potatoes, oh, I got food poisoning from that. All right. I think that I'm about to get sick now thinking about, right? So what you do is you think exercise is bad, but what we've been trained. And it's not what you feel during exercise. Like I tell you, running, most of the time, nobody likes running. And if they do, they're lying to you. Okay. But they like how they feel afterwards. They like how they feel afterwards. And that's why we had to think about exercise running. Ah, I have peace, less stress. That's what you think of. And eventually, as you keep doing it, walking, wow, look, I'm getting sun. I feel better, getting vitamin D. I feel better. Then, like, I like exercise. You do what? And then you're like, what is wrong with me? But you'll find that you will actually like it, enjoy it if you just equate it to that. But you have to give yourself permission to do that. I mean, Jesus walked a lot. He wasn't just doing it like, okay, we got to walk another place. He was talking with his disciples and they were just having a good time and, connecting. But we need to equate that together. So that's a long answer.
No, that's great. I love it.
Well,
I
that's a good answer, but our time has come to an end. So I just wanted to say thank you so much, Dr. Nancy Meyer. I call her Dr. Nancy, but thank you so much for bringing this amazing, right on target for us. I love the mental, the spiritual, the physical. Hello, guys. It doesn't get any closer to our core values. So that is just wonderful. And so I love it. I hope that you all go and practice and download the resources that she has for us and have go forward with your abundant life.